I'm 78 years old now, and it's a strange thing to sit in a quiet room hearing the clock tick like it's keeping score and realize most of your life is already behind you. When you're young, time feels like a field that stretches forever. You don't measure it, you just walk through it. But when you get old, you start looking back at the footprints, and sometimes you see the places where you should have stopped, or turned around, or simply stayed a little longer. I spent more than 50 years learning something I could probably tell you in 10 minutes. But life doesn't hand out its lessons early. It waits. It lets you live the wrong way for a long time first. That's how it was for me. When I was in my 20s, I believed in being useful. That was the word I liked. Useful. My father was a quiet man who worked long hours. He didn't say much about feelings or dreams. What he respected was effort, showing up, carrying your weight. So that's what I tried to do. I got a job at 23. Not a glamorous one, but steady. A desk, a paycheck, something respectable you could tell people about at family gatherings. I married when I was 27. Her name was Laura. She had this laugh that filled the room before you even saw her. Back then, I thought that kind of joy was permanent, like something built into the world. We rented a small apartment with thin walls and a balcony that overlooked a parking lot. On summer nights, we'd sit out there with cheap folding chairs and watch people come and go. Those nights felt long, endless even. We talked about all the things we would do someday. Travel, a bigger house, maybe a little place near water when we got older. Someday is a very comfortable word when you're young. It makes everything feel safe. When our first child was born, I was 30. I remember standing in the hospital room, holding this tiny person who looked like a bundle of blankets with a face. Laura was tired but smiling, and I remember thinking something very practical. I need to work harder now. That thought followed me for decades, not because anyone forced it on me, because it felt responsible. So I stayed late at the office, took on extra projects, said yes to things I didn't really need to say yes to. People notice that kind of thing. Promotions come slowly, but they come. By 40, I was doing well by most people's standards. Bigger house, 2 kids, a second car in the driveway. From the outside, it probably looked like the right kind of life. But the strange thing about slow mistakes is that they don't feel like mistakes while you're making them. They feel like discipline, like commitment, like being a good man. There were small moments that tried to interrupt the pattern. My daughter once asked if I could come watch her school play. I told her I would try. Try is another comfortable word. It sounds hopeful, but it usually means no. That evening, I stayed late finishing something that, if I'm honest now, probably didn't matter very much. When I got home, the house was quiet. Laura told me the play had gone well. Our daughter had one line, just one, but she'd been practicing it all week. I remember saying something like, "I'm sure she did great." And then I went upstairs to answer a few more emails. I didn't think much about it. Life kept moving. Years passed the way they do when you're busy. Quickly. Birthdays happened. Vacations were planned and sometimes canceled. The kids grew taller without asking permission. Laura's laugh changed a little over time, still warm, but softer, like it had learned patience. There were evenings she would sit across from me at dinner and tell me about her day. Half the time I was thinking about something else, a meeting, a problem at work, tomorrow's schedule. I nodded at the right moments. That felt like listening back then. I didn't understand that yet. By my 50s, the house had become quieter. Kids leave eventually. That's what they're supposed to do. Our son moved across the country for a job. Our daughter started a family of her own. Laura and I suddenly had long evenings again, but something about them felt different from those balcony nights decades earlier. We had gotten used to living parallel lives, friendly, respectful, but slightly out of rhythm. Sometimes she would suggest going somewhere for the weekend. I'd say, maybe next month. Work was still busy. There was always something just around the corner. I believed I was buying us security. What I didn't realize was that time doesn't store itself the way money does. You can't save it for later. If you don't spend it when it's there, it quietly disappears. The turning point came when I was 62. It wasn't dramatic. Life's biggest moments rarely are. Laura started feeling tired more often. At first we blamed it on age. Then came the doctor visits, tests, more waiting rooms than I can count. One afternoon we sat across from a man in a white coat who spoke very carefully. I don't remember most of the medical words he used. I just remember the silence afterward. The kind of silence where your entire past suddenly feels heavy. Laura squeezed my hand. I realized something in that moment. For 40 years I had been preparing for the future, and now the future had arrived, smaller than I expected. The next 2 years were different from the rest of our life together. Work stopped mattering. Deadlines vanished from my mind. The only schedule that mattered was her comfort, her appointments, the good days and the bad ones. We spent a lot of quiet time in the living room, sometimes watching old movies, sometimes just sitting. One evening she looked at me and said something that still stays with me. "You're finally here." She didn't say it angrily, just gently. That sentence followed me for a long time, because she was right. For decades, I had been physically present in our life, but not always truly there. Not in the way people need you. Not in the way love quietly asks for. Laura passed away on a rainy morning in October. I was holding her hand. The house felt enormous after that, not because it was large, because one voice had disappeared. Grief is a strange companion. It doesn't shout all the time. Mostly, it waits. It shows up in ordinary places. An empty chair, a song on the radio, a memory that arrives uninvited while you're washing dishes. In those quiet moments, you start replaying your life like an old film. Not the big scenes, the small ones. The school play you missed, the weekend trips postponed, the conversations half heard, all the moments that seemed safe to delay. That's when the lesson finally became clear to me. It took 50 years, but it was very simple. Life is not lost through catastrophe most of the time. It's lost through postponement, through the belief that there will always be another evening, another weekend, another year to finally slow down and look at the people sitting across from you. But time doesn't make promises like that. It just keeps moving, quietly. I still see my children. They visit when they can. My granddaughter likes to sit with me and ask questions about the old days. Sometimes I tell her stories about the small apartment and the balcony and her grandmother's laugh. Those memories are warm, but they carry a little weight too, because I know how much of that life I spent rushing past, trying to reach a finish line that kept moving further away. If you're listening to this, you probably still have something I can't get back. Time that hasn't hardened into memory yet. Evenings that are still open. Conversations that haven't happened. I won't tell you how to live your life. I've had too many years of doing it my own way to pretend I know everything. But I will tell you this. The things you think you're working so hard for, they rarely remember you. People do. And people need your attention in real time. Not someday. Not when things calm down. Now. I'm 78 years old. These days, my world is smaller. Morning coffee, a slow walk down the street, sometimes sitting by the window in the afternoon light, and thinking. Not about the promotions or the projects. Those faded quickly. What stays are the faces, the voices, the chances to sit beside someone and truly be there. If this meant something to you, if even a small part of it felt familiar, then maybe it's worth holding someone a little longer tonight, listening a little more carefully, staying in the room instead of rushing to the next thing. Because one day, without much warning, the room becomes quiet, and you realize how precious those ordinary moments really were. I learned that after 50 years. I just wish I had learned it sooner.